Today, we're tackling a question that's really at the core of American democracy. Why does the U.S. Constitution, a document that starts with "we the people," feel so completely out of our control sometimes? I mean, think about it. So many of our biggest, most fundamental debates about our rights, our representation, how we live together, they don't get settled in Congress anymore. They're not decided at the ballot box. Instead, everything seems to come down to the Supreme Court. You know, the historian Jill Lepore put it perfectly. She said, we're all frozen, just waiting. It feels like the entire country is holding its breath for a ruling from just 9 people that could change everything for decades. So, how on earth did we get here? Well, to really get a handle on this, we've got to go back to 1787 and look at a machine. This thing is called an orrery. It's a clockwork model of the solar system. And this particular one, built by a guy named Joseph Pope, was a total mechanical marvel. Beautiful, intricate system that was also a pretty brilliant metaphor for the new American government.
Okay, so let's dig into this idea of a frozen constitution. Because just like that amazing machine, the Constitution was designed to be this magnificent, self-correcting system. But as we're about to see, it has this one major flaw. It gets stuck.
See, here's the thing about Pope's orrery. It had a fatal flaw. It would run perfectly, until all of a sudden, with this huge jolt, the whole thing would just freeze. The machine was broken. And Jill Lepore argues this is exactly what happens with the Constitution's ability to change. The system gives a tremendous jump, and then it just stops. So how is this machine supposed to fix itself anyway? The framers, they knew the Constitution would need updates over time. They just couldn't agree on how easy or how hard that should be.
James Madison really laid out the challenge here. If you make it too easy to amend, the whole system becomes unstable. But if you make it too hard, all of its flaws get locked in forever. He was trying to find that perfect balance, that sweet spot. The problem is, they might have missed the mark. Big time. And this number says it all. 27. That's it. In over 230 years, we've only successfully amended the Constitution 27 times. And remember, the first 10 of those, the Bill of Rights, happened right at the beginning. It really seems like that extreme difficulty Madison was worried about is exactly what we got. And the reason why is something called Article 5. It sets this incredibly high bar. You need a supermajority of Congress just to propose an amendment. And then you need an even bigger supermajority of states, 38 of them, to actually make it law. In a country as divided as ours, well, it's pretty much impossible. So what happens when that formal process, that main constitutional door, is locked shut? Well, people don't just give up on making change. They just find another way in. And you can really see the pattern here. Amendments don't happen gradually. They come in these short, revolutionary bursts. You have the founding, then the period right after the Civil War, the Progressive Era, and the Civil Rights Movement. And in between those bursts, decades of total silence. Decades where the machine is frozen solid. This kind of gridlock basically forces every major debate we have down one of 2 roads. The first is the one the framers intended. The people amend the Constitution through Article 5. The second is what happens when that door is locked. 9 justices on the Supreme Court just decide what it means for us. All that pressure for change gets funneled right to the court. And listen, this is not a one-sided thing. In the 20th century, liberals who couldn't get civil rights amendments passed turned to the courts to win. And then later, when conservatives couldn't get amendments on things like school prayer, they did the exact same thing. They focused all their energy on winning the courts. Okay, so this brings us to the modern era. Because after that last flurry of activity in the 60s and early 70s, something really shifted. The door didn't just get stuck, it felt like it slammed shut for good. And the real turning point here was the fight over the Equal Rights Amendment, or the ERA. It passed Congress with huge support back in 1972, but then it stalled out. It just couldn't get enough states to sign on. That failure really marked the end of an era and the beginning of the deep freeze we're in today. And we have to remember, this wasn't just some abstract legal argument. The activist and lawyer Polly Murray made it so clear what was really at stake. For Black women, the ERA wasn't just about equality on paper. It was about getting a stable footing in the nation's most basic law. And its failure left that ground shaky. So where does all of this leave us today? What's the real legacy of having a frozen, unamendable Constitution? Well, it brings us right back to where we started. A divided nation, waiting for 9 judges to decide our fate. The fallout it's everywhere you look. You have outdated systems like the Electoral College that are basically impossible to change. You get what some political scientists call a tyranny of the minority, where a small number of states can block the will of the majority. And because the Supreme Court is the only game in town for big changes, every judicial nomination becomes an absolute all-out political war.
And this has created a massive divide between generations. I mean, this chart, wow, it really lays it all out. 2/3 of Gen Z say the Constitution has to be changed, but over 60% of the silent generation says it should be left alone. Younger Americans see a document that's stuck in the past, while many older Americans see something sacred that needs to be preserved.
And all of this really leaves us with one final and maybe the most important question of all. If we the people are supposed to be the ultimate source of power, but the main tool we have for shaping our own government is basically broken, can we honestly say that we have the Constitution we want?